neighbor. Just felt like getting on here today, getting on here tonight, and talking about a few things that are on my mind. Tonight I made a pasta, peas, and cheese dish, which, except for the cheese, it's pretty cheap. Also has some onions and garlic in there. The garlic was not originally a part of the recipe, but you can never go wrong with garlic. Unless you're allergic to it. I've cooked for people who don't like garlic, so yeah, it turned out pretty good for a 3 or 4 ingredient pasta. Earlier today, I drove downriver to pick up a few groceries. Spent about $46 at the store. Spent about $40 on gas. The gas is getting higher. When I got here on the West Coast, it was, I think there were gas prices that were about $3.20. I don't remember the exact, but as you go upriver, the prices get higher and higher. The highest price that I saw today was $4.50 a gallon for just the basic unleaded. The lowest price that I was able to find was $3.91 or $3.93, I believe. And yeah, it's getting pretty expensive. As I start this little vlog here, this little diary, I'm thinking about where I came from, where I'm going, and what I'm doing right now. And I feel that I know what I'm doing more now than I did 10 years ago, or even a year ago. But there's still a part of me that is very hesitant to say, like, this is what I'm doing. Because it doesn't seem that I have much of a material, like, offering to show, like, hey, I did this, or it just seems that sometimes it just seems that other people have something more to show for what they've been up to in life. I'm 31 years old, and I'm resting in the knowledge that, or in the belief, or in the thought that what I have isn't really what I have. And what I mean by that is our efforts as people aren't necessarily a tangible thing. And culture would have us believe that we have to have something to show in order to prove our worth or prove that we did something. When I think that the opposite is true, just in knowing that in some ways just the best thing that you can offer, the best thing that I can offer is just what I have today. How am I feeling today? I'm feeling a little bad. I guess I am feeling a little bit bad today. I think it's cleared up as the day has furthered on. Like, I'm feeling pretty good right now. But all that you can do is really just is offer up what you have in the moment. And that's all you can give. The lie is to believe that you need to be giving something different than what you're giving up, like what you're giving right now. And my hope in that, and maybe, I don't know, I guess I'm hesitant to hope for this, but my hope in this is that I'm going to find myself in a different place as time goes on. And I'm going to get better at being where I'm at. Just by allowing life to create me and make me and form me. I'm also thinking a lot about desolation. And that's a big word. I'm thinking of it in the Lord of the Rings term, the desolation of Smaug, the dragon, and he burns an entire city. I'm thinking about desolation, thinking about where I came from, thinking about how I came from desolation, but I don't have to go to desolation. But then I'm also faced with the fact that death is a desolation. And 70 years down the line, whenever that happens, that will be the ending. That will be a desolation of my time here on earth. How great is that desolation that I came from? I fear that it's quite a big desolation, like quite a great desolation. Just like when all a kid has growing up is computer screens and abuse from a parent and neglect from a parent. The whole view of the world from then on out, then on forward, it becomes skewed. When the world feels like a hostile place, then that shapes the rest of life going forward. And I remember school being a very hostile place. I remember school being a thing that I did not want to go to because it felt like a prison sentence. Just like there was anything, I wanted to do anything else but go to school. There were things that I liked about it. Like I've always loved learning. This isn't me like saying like I hate school. But looking back on it, there's just so many better ways to teach children. And I can think of ways that teachers should have cared for me better, and ways that teachers just simply forgot about me because I was a quiet person, and I still am. And it feels like people just slowly forget me as time passes. And I've just taken that with me into the rest of my life. And then frustrations with the ways that, well, my parents, they should have cared for me better. They should have loved me better. They didn't provide for me in this way that I've seen other parents care for their children. And I don't have the opportunities that other people were given. Like, there was no direction. I picked up playing guitar. I'm pointing at a guitar right now, from my dad, and music is a big part of my family, especially on my dad's side. But I think that the fear that I feel came from my parents, the fear of rejection, the carrying of whatever shame they felt. I don't know. I'm still trying to unpack all that. I feel that that hindered me in so many different ways. When I go out into the world not wanting to be seen because I'm afraid of the shame of what's going to happen, of being yelled at, the shame of being yelled at, the shame of being called a failure. Then it's a shackle that, like, well, then I guess I shouldn't play guitar. I don't want to sing. I'm afraid of finding my voice, of saying anything at all, because I'm going to mess it up. People are going to criticize me. People are going to say, like, this or that. And that's just nothing that anyone should be afraid of. And it takes years to get anywhere else when you're locked inside of a prison. It takes years to find what life should look like outside of that prison. And I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm still trying to figure out, like, what should a day in my life look like? I think about waking up and feeling like my whole, like, all of my neurons are rusty. All of it's depression. I guess I don't want to call it depression. I think depression is too clinical of a term. Um, I think depression is a normal response to all the things that we go through and have to deal with in this life, like listening to the news or dealing with bad people at work or frustrating people at work. When you realize that the world's constantly ending, or when you think or start to think that the world's constantly ending, depression is the normal response. And anxiety is a normal response. Desolation. Desolate. A desert. I think about how the internet was, in so many ways, an oasis for me and to me. I remember just having an entire list of all these different websites that I'd go to, and this just being like a mecca for like Star Trek or new technologies that were being invented or science, and all of these different, like, the world is like, the future is bright. Just these different fables and stories and ideas, and I just enjoyed hearing people talk about them, and I still do. I was just watching an episode of Star Trek about an hour ago. And before that, I was listening to a politics chat on YouTube. And they're the stories of our day. They're the tales told around the campfire. But even in that, I feel this desolation. When the sum, or when the pinnacle, when the summation, I don't know, when the fullness of a civilization or a culture comes to a man sitting in his basement, a 9-year-old me, sitting in the basement, this unfinished basement, reading about places far away and reading about the news of the day, and like, when that's the height of civilization, me like sitting on a computer looking at a screen in a dark room, there's something really sorrowful about that. Like, I'm reading comments from people all around the world whom I've never met, and suddenly those people, they become anonymous because I'm not necessarily paying attention to the different, like, the usernames that I've seen before, because I've seen thousands of usernames. And There are some communities that I'm a part of that I recognize some usernames by now. And there are a lot of channels and places that I go to regularly. But there are also people that I've not necessarily met in person. And if I were to meet them in person, well, they've got 100,000 subscribers. They've got all these subscribers. What am I going to say? The fame removes them from me, and I feel it necessary to remove myself from them in some ways. I don't know. It doesn't have to be these ways, but there's just something that goes on when, on top of that, different communities, they're surrounding a person or a single icon or a subject, rather than each person having an equal voice and people in those like comments sections being elevated through upvotes and downvotes and ostracized, excommunicated. Like it's a sad reality. It's faceless, and we didn't always used to be that way. At least I hope that there's another way. I don't know how it looked like, what it looked like 200 years ago, but I dream. So, I don't know. Desolation. It's an interesting, yeah. Life feels desolate, especially when I consider how fragile the life that I live is, and how much of it hinges on, is my car running properly? What are the gas prices? What do they look like? Am I going to be able to afford gas? Am I going to be able to afford repairing my car? At what point do I need to lock myself into a car loan that I don't want to pay? Because I've only had one car payment in my life, and I'm glad that I don't have to pay for a monthly payment for a car like right now. I'm gonna keep my bucket of bolts running as long as I can. There's a musician in particular that I don't know if infatuated with is the term, right? But I've been listening to a lot of her music recently. I guess over the past year or so, just slowly I listened to one album. I really get the sense and feel of this album because I'm listening to it multiple times throughout the week. And it becomes a soundtrack for that moment of my life. And then I pick another album and I start listening to that one too, and I get a sense and a feel of this is really cool, and it just sort of transitions me through different seasons and times of my life and inspires me. An album that I'm listening to right now I started listening to about a year ago, maybe 8 months, 7 months ago. I'm I'm currently learning one of the songs on the album on the guitar, and it's just a beautiful. It's a song about the journey of life, and the lyrics go, "Nobody gives you a map of the ridge. You climb one mountain, and then you find the next. You follow the river to the fountainhead, watershed. The tallest summit you look up to, someday it's going to look small to you. There's a new one coming into view, watershed." And it's a beautiful song. The rest of the lyrics are even, like, they're really incredible. The artist has so many good songs. And listening to that album, suddenly I'm listening to another album, and another album, and then I bump into an interview. The reason I'm talking about this is that when I start to, like, get into, like, all these, like, interviews, all of these different, like, chats and, like, people talking, there's the sense that, like, there's this community out there of people doing music, and there's this there's something going on, there's something happening, but it's over there. I'm not a part of it, and yet I feel like a part of it because I'm listening to these incredible songs. So when I consider that I'm just here on my computer, like, I feel a desolation. I feel like, oh, like, where am I? What am I doing? And just YouTube has a way of taking me to 100 different places. I have listened to people who've I've listened to the stories of people from all over the world now. Just like, this is how I live in this place, and this is what my life is like. And I've listened. I've learned so much, only to learn, like, what have I learned? um, yeah.